Okay, hello, welcome back to another video. I'm Savalian, a software dev / creative, and today's video is a little experiment I did over the course of about a month. It wasn't exactly a month, it was pretty casual, and it's all about this little guy here, my Fitbit. So I've had Fitbits for several years, I don't even know how many years at this point, and they recently released the Fitbit Sense 2. So I've had the original Fitbit Sense. It's kind of their top of the line fitness watch. It's got all the features and stuff. And I was interested in the Sense 2. I didn't really need it. And that's sort of what started this idea of, is it worth it to upgrade from a Sense 1 to a Sense 2? Is it worth having a fitness watch at all? And what would happen if you actually listened to the Fitbit and did what it told you to do for a whole month? So the premise of this video is that if you have a Fitbit Premium account, you get a readiness score every day. It basically tells you how ready your body should be to do exercise. And then underneath the readiness score, they put a little active zone minute recommendation. So it's like a recommendation for how many minutes you should sort of get your heart rate up, how many minutes you should exercise. So for the duration of this video, I looked at that number and I got that number every day, even when I really didn't want to. I did a little bit of sort of vlog style filming throughout the experiment, but it felt a little bit disconnected. And so I'm just gonna sort of talk about how it went, what happened, what the recommendations are like, what I did to meet those goals, whether it was difficult, and things like that. So let's get into it. So first of all, the Sense 1 and the Sense 2 are pretty similar machines. They didn't add a ton for the Sense 2, which is kind of why I was really on the fence about getting it. I know it's not really a necessary, but the big difference is that they have a sort of all-day stress tracker. It's the same thing in the Sense 1 where you had to put your hand on top of the screen to track, I forget what the word is. They use like an electrical pulse to track like if you're sweating, I think is how it works. But basically this one does that all day. It reminds you to track your mood. It can automatically detect workouts better than the previous one. Things like that. So it's very minor. It's only really going to appeal to a specific sort of person, or a fan like me, a fan of Fitbit. So I took some video of them side by side, kind of how they compare visually, what they look like. But one cool thing is that the actual watch like band part that holds it to your wrist, you can get like fancy ones. I have one that is like a sport band because I think the air helps my arm not get irritated like the solid bands do. And also it's easier to clasp. I hate that like infinity clasp that they use on the default Fitbit band. I think it's bad. It's hard to do. I like this one a lot better. It's just the traditional like the prong through the other metal piece. I don't know if there's a word for that, but in general it looks good. It's supposedly a little bit thinner, but it feels very similar to the other one. It's not like significantly lighter or anything as far as I can tell. And then setup was really easy. The Fitbit app on my phone automatically detected it when I turned it on and just started the setup process. If you've never had a Fitbit before, you will have to actually download the app and set it up that way, but it walks you through. It updates the firmware, it gets all the new, the new stuff to run on it that may have been released since they made it initially in the factory. So it makes sure it's all up to date. It may ask you some questions about who you are and like how much you weigh and all that for fitness metric purposes. But since I already had a Fitbit, all of that was in my account already. And it was pretty much just charge it up, get those firmware updates, and it's ready to go. So in this experiment, primarily what I'm looking at are health metrics. So not necessarily like a subjective thing, but has following the recommendations actually affected the health metrics that Fitbit reports back to you? So things like resting heart rate variability, sleep quality, stuff like that. So I have graphs showing the progress or lack of progress on each of those that I'll talk about at the very end. But As I went through this experiment, every single day I would wake up, I would look at the readiness score, and there's 3 different categories it can fall into. It can be low, medium, or high. And from what I've seen, the low always tells you to rest, so it'll just say like, do some active recovery if you want, but just take it easy. I think I only got 2 rest days during this, just because I guess I'm sleeping well enough or whatever that my body's ready to keep exercising, even though some days I really felt like I did not want to do anything, but I did it anyway when the Fitbit told me to. Medium range for me seemed to recommend between like 5 and 20 active zone minutes. So that's the way that they do these. I don't know if this is a standardized thing or not, but active zone minutes are in your like fat burn heart rate zone. And then if you're in the cardio zone, each minute counts for 2. So if you're really, really working out, you accumulate these active zone minutes faster. So the medium range was about 5 to 20. And then the high range, which I got more than I expected, was like over this amount. So it was usually around 20, like over 25, over 26. Those were kind of the 3 ranges. And as I went through the month, I realized I wasn't going to do like a hard run every day, even if the Fitbit told me to. So I developed some little tricks. Maybe it's a little cheesy, but some days I would get on the treadmill, put some incline on, and run or walk at a high incline just to get my heart rate up. Other days I would do a strength workout or I would lift weights. And then some of the days, probably a lot of them, I would just sort of jog in place, do some jumping jacks, do some squats, just to get my heart rate up for a couple of minutes. I would do this like while I was cooking, while I was waiting for the cats to eat. I feed them twice a day and I have to sort of wait, make sure they don't steal each other's food. So I think one thing I kind of learned was exercise doesn't have to be a whole thing every day. You can just sort of move more. And I know I'm not a doctor, this is not expert advice. I think it's all the same to your heart, right? Your heart is what you're sort of building up, it's what you're exercising. Being more active throughout the day helped me get a lot of these active zone minutes and helped me meet those recommended requirements. Now let's talk about the results. Was this good for me? Did my health metrics move? Would I recommend upgrading? I'm going to talk about all of this, but first, the TLDR of this is, I think that diet is much more important than exercise. And so this is sort of what I found out with the Huel experiment, where just changing my diet made a huge impact on all these metrics. For this one, just changing the exercise didn't make a huge difference. But what I also did during this time, because it went from late October to late November, we hit the holidays and I ate a lot of sugar, I ate a lot of desserts, we made multiple pies, and so you can see exactly the point where I started eating a lot of sugar, and the exercise did not outweigh that. So we can see sort of with the pollution of this extra variable that just meeting these recommended exercise requirements is not going to make up for poor diet. So just keep that in mind. I'll talk about each metric as we go. So the first metric, I didn't get a clear starting point for this just because I didn't really think about it, but it was weight. I did gain some weight during the past month. Like I said, I didn't weigh myself. I wasn't really trying to lose or gain weight. I should have done it for the sake of data, but I didn't, and I can't go back. But I can estimate about 5 pounds were gained in the past month. And like I said, I did eat a lot of Thanksgiving food, a lot of desserts. And so even though I was likely burning more calories on average during this little experiment, it was not enough to outweigh the change in diet. So certain things your exercise is going to help with, and certain things it'll help with, but it's not going to help nearly as much as if you cut out sugar, dramatically reduce sugar, count your calories, things like that. Okay, now the stuff we actually have metrics for. I'm going to move myself over here So the first thing was resting heart rate. So the first one was resting heart rate, and you can see it didn't really go up or down for most of the time frame. But then when I started eating all that sugar, it went up. I've seen this before. It's not a surprise to me. Eating a lot of sugar is just really bad for me and probably for a lot of other people. My heart doesn't like it. My heart doesn't like to eat so much sugar, but my taste buds do. Of course, I do. So this is a reminder to myself that I just really need to, I don't know, be a little bit more responsible with what I'm eating. You know, obviously a couple weeks is not going to kill me, but if I just keep this up, we can see in the numbers that it's not going to be a good long-term trend to be eating a lot of desserts all the time. So again, no guilt here. It's not like a guilt thing. It's just seeing the numbers and being aware. Exercise is not a cure-all for bad diet. Unfortunately, it would be really nice if it was. My sleep, my hours of sleep, my time going to sleep didn't really change. I kind of fluctuate throughout the week. I sleep more on weekends because I don't have to get up for work, and I kind of go to bed around the same time and I get up around the same time. This did not change with the additional exercise. Wasn't really expecting to see a change here, and I didn't. Now, some of the more interesting metrics are underneath this health metrics section in the app, which you do need a premium account, I believe, to see most of these, which is kind of how they get you. They let you see all this other stuff for free, and then the premium stuff is the really nitty-gritty, like health stuff. So under this one, we have resting heart rate again. We have the breathing rate when you're sleeping. We have SpO2, which I believe is the estimated oxygen in your blood while you're sleeping. And then we have a heart rate variability, which is a big one. It's one of the main things they use to see readiness. And I know the Oura Ring, other like Whoop, all of those use heart rate variability. So it's sort of an industry standard among fitness tech. So let's talk about heart rate variability first. One thing I noticed is that in late October, early November, it was pretty high. I mean, high for me. I don't know what like objectively high is, but around 70 to 100 is about where those were falling on this graph, which is fine, I assume. But then in late November, when I started eating all that sugar, it did go noticeably down. So you can kind of see the toll that these bad diet choices were taking on me. If I go further back on the graph, it doesn't look like the exercise dramatically increased it, but changing my diet for the worse did dramatically decrease it. So I do know this one, you want it to be higher because it tells, it's the variation in time between heartbeats. So when it's higher, it means your heart is more capable of adapting to different situations, as I understand it, which is better. So the fact that this went down after sort of the holiday binge, it's, you know, it's data. It's very clear data that I should not be doing this. All right, now let's talk about SpO2, which I don't even know if that's how you say this metric. I've never seen it outside of the Fitbit app or really used it for anything. But this one was the amount of oxygen in the blood while sleeping. I'm assuming that higher is better because you want to have enough oxygen in your blood. And this one actually did seem to be more correlated with the exercise than with diet. So this one actually did go up a little bit noticeably during the like 25-ish days where I was doing the recommended exercise every day. And then before and after the experiment, it was lower. So that one does seem like when I'm exercising every day a little bit, you know, some days more than others, my blood has more oxygen in it, which I assume is a good thing. So this metric actually changed, and you can kind of see the trend before and after the experiment, which I think is nice. It's nice to get data like this because most of it is either flat or related to other things that were happening, like with the desserts. And then the last one was breathing rate. We can see from the graph, this one is kind of just normal. Just normal. It didn't change at all in the past 90 days for any reason, as far as I can tell. In the end, what do I think? The first question, do I think upgrading from the Sense 1 to the Sense 2 is a good idea? Do I think it has enough features to warrant that? Probably not. I would say probably not. I would recommend if you have this regular Sense, it's fine. It does most of what you need a fitness band to do. If you're really, really focused on the stress detection, on mood logging, on sort of the mental side of the fitness tracking, maybe if you have some extra money to spend, I would recommend upgrading. But for most people, I think you're probably fine. It doesn't do that much more, and it's pretty expensive. It's like $300, I think. I had a big coupon. Fitbit really wanted me to upgrade because I had the other one. So I think it was still like $200 or so with that big coupon. But yeah, it's kind of a fanatic purchase, you know, people who are really into Fitbit, who really want the next nicest thing. They're really the only people who are gonna reasonably pay all this money to upgrade, and that's okay. Now, if you don't have a fitness band at all, and you want to start tracking your health, I think this is a great option. Like I said, it is a bit expensive, but I really feel like all of this information about how your heart is feeling, about whether it's detecting stress, your sleep, I think this is really valuable information for reasons like this. Like, I can do little experiments like this. I can see very viscerally the impact that changes in my diet or changes in my routine have on my health. And it is true, you do actually need to analyze the data. It doesn't automatically tell you sort of how you can change for the better. There's a lot of little articles and advice in the Fitbit app if you are really lost, if you don't know what to do at all. But I do think you have to have a mind for it in the first place. You have to do a little bit of research on your own. But if you're at that stage, if you're ready to track this stuff and do something with it, I think this is one of the better options, at least in the Fitbit line. There's a lot of cheaper bands that are missing some of these features that I think are really valuable. But in general, yes, I would recommend it. I think it's a good one. And I guess the final result is, do I like the daily recommendations? Do I think the Readiness Active Zone Minute recommendations are useful? Yes. I think if you commit to following them, it's not necessarily that doing 20 minutes of exercise on this particular day is going to change your life, but I think having these reminders and having these recommendations can really be helpful for forming the habit of moving throughout the day, which is going to get you most of the way there. You know, fitness can be this big daunting thing, and you maybe don't really know what to do or how to do it. And I think this is a great starting point for pretty much everybody, is just knowing how to move and get your heart rate up, and knowing what you like to do, having that commitment to do it every day. That's most of the work. And then if you want to be a really high performing athlete, there's a lot more you could do. But I think this is as a minimum, as a habit, I think it's really powerful. So I liked it. I'm going to continue trying to meet these goals, though I know without the overt commitment in the form of making a video, I tend to fall off a lot of these, and you know, that's just the honest truth. But I liked it, I think it helped, and I'm gonna try to continue putting that into my lifestyle. So it's kind of the same with the Huel, where I don't really want to go full 100% for the rest of my life, but I think knowing the benefits are there, knowing what could be possible if I was a little bit more committed, I think all of that helps me make better choices day to day, to just get just a little bit healthier every day. So those are my thoughts on the Fitbit Sense 2. Those are my thoughts on forming exercise habits, and I hope you liked it. I really like fitness bands. I think they're fun to play with. I think they're fun to sort of see what you can track automatically. because, you know, before we had smartwatches like this, we just had to write down. We had to actually measure our heart rate and write it down multiple times a day and write down how, like, when we were falling asleep. And we can do it automatically now. It opens up a lot of doors for trying new things. So I have a lot of fun with videos like this. I hope you liked it. My next video will almost certainly be a game dev video because I'm currently doing Game Dev December, where I work on my game every day for the month of December. I've been posting about it a lot on Instagram if you want to follow me there, and I'm hoping to just really bust out a lot of work on it. So be sure to hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more like this, more about my game, more about art, more about whatever. I've been trying a lot of new videos and it's been a lot of fun, and I think you guys are enjoying it as well. But thank you for watching. I'll be back soon with another video, and I hope to see you there. Bye bye bye.